Well, Regina is home of the Mounties, and there was a big issue that came about in late December, and we more or less just never even saw or heard of it because everything that was happening in Ottawa was such big news. It was such fodder for the airwaves that this is a story that almost kind of slid by us. And so we're visiting it today. And joining me right now is Staff Sergeant Brian Roach with the RCMP. Brian, thank you for joining me today.
I appreciate that, Jim.
Now, Brian, the one issue that, as I said, it more or less seemed to slip by the media, and Regina is the home of the RCMP, major training grounds here, was the fact that the government all of a sudden said, you guys aren't getting the raise that we were going to give you. Well, what actually happened there, Brian? Fill me in on that.
Well, and listen, I'm not surprised by the people out there that haven't been aware of this, because it clearly came out in an opportune time for the government because it was into the holiday season, and this was the pie in the sky that they grabbed out December 11th. Clearly, after the economic statement, there was hints in there that they were going to be looking around to see where they can recoup some of the money that the oppositions wouldn't allow them to take. And we happened to be one of those ones that was an easy grab. So on December 11th, the Treasury Board ministers met, and without knowledge of a lot of their members of Parliament, and took this pie in the sky and said, here's how we can get some money here very quickly, and let's look into the RCMP agreement that we signed in June 08 and take away their market adjustment and affect their economic increase and roll them back to 1.5 for 09 and 10. So the next day I got a call from our commissioner saying that he just got this notice of intent from the Secretariat, and starting January 1, Brian, in 09, you're going to be rolled back.
So you were going to get how much? On January 1st, how much of a raise were you supposed to get?
Well, this contract started in 08, so that year increase was honored. But of course, in 09 and 010, we were to get 3.5 in 09. Now, that 3.5, there's an economic increase, which is, for all intents and purposes for your listeners, is our raise. And that was 2%. Treasury Board then gave us a 1.5 market adjustment. And they use these terms specifically to separate the wheat from the chaff and show that the true raise is only 2%. So they took that away, and then in 2010, we're getting a straight 2% economic increase. So the rolling 0.5 from that, and then of course bringing us down to 1.5 in 09, which is a rollback of a little over 2% there.
Okay, so you're supposed to get 3.5 in January 1st, and you're only going to get 1.5, and then for in the year 2010. They've rolled it back as well. You were supposed to get, what did you say, 3%, you're only getting 1.5? 2%
in 2010, and they're going to give us 1.5.
Okay, so you're being rolled back both times. Now, how did the members react to this?
Well, of course, then you're going to figure out how you're going to communicate to the 20-some thousand members out there that celebrated in June 08 when the commissioner came out and told them about this 3-year package that was all built around retention and traction, Jim. That's the big thing here. And Treasury Board demanded that we speak in that type of language.
Well, that's right, and they were also bringing in older members, bringing them back because there was such a shortage of RCMP officers.
Oh, that's right. We had to go and reinstitute the reserve program. That hasn't been done for over 100 years.
Yeah, that's right.
Act, and we had to roll that in.
Yeah, that's right. They brought in.
So, of course, the members it was shock and dismay on the whole thing, discouragement. I mean, we've been going through a lot in the force right now with the Brown Task Force, the pension scandal. So, and it happened to be, Jim, on the anniversary of rebuilding the trust by David Brown, both internally and externally with the government, and then we get hit with that. So, morale, I mean, it's one above a barking dog. And of course, they were saying, what happened to the trust? This government campaigned on having, strong crime and punishment and support the National Police Force, and then pull the legs out from underneath us.
Now, I happen to be, just before airtime, I happen to be talking to a researcher from British Columbia, and I mentioned this story to him, and he was quite surprised, and his words were, and the RCMP aren't paid that well, especially in the junior ranks compared to municipal police forces. Is that accurate, Brian?
Oh, yes. Clearly, and that's the big thing out there, and I know your listeners are aware of that, is that there's great competition right now. But even greater for us because of the legislative mandates that we have versus some municipal forces. Like, we're mandated on IMETs, on air marshals, national security.
You're big on the criminal code. I mean, I know all police forces are involved, but that's what you're the national police force. That's what you do.
Oh, we have 55 members over in Afghanistan and peacekeeping areas. So we're all over the world. But we weren't even paying our cadets when every other police force was. And so we were able to pay our cadets. But listen, that wasn't new money. That was money that the Conservatives said, well, here's 1,000 positions with integrity funding, which means sense funding. And we couldn't fill them because of trying to get the attraction. We weren't paying our cadets. So they allowed us to take that money to pay our cadets $500 a week. And that's not a done deal forever and a day. That expires in 2009. And I don't know where we're going to get the money from, because if we have to pay for it internally, we're not going to be able to fill up the tanks in our police cars.
So that all comes out of your budget, is what you're saying?
Well, that's right.
Yeah. Now, there was one news story last night on I believe it was CTV News was talking about the fact that here in Regina it is a bit easier to recruit now, just because the economic problems that the whole nation is facing.
Well, yes, but why would they come to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police when they can go into Regina City or Vancouver or Toronto or OPP, who are especially Toronto Metro and OPP in Vancouver, who just settled, that are way, way out in front, and they don't have to move, and they're in major cities where backup's 30 seconds away. You know what I'm saying? It's all about total package and attraction.
Yes, I understand what you're saying is the Mounties get the remote locales. Also, what is the rules regarding Mounties and being stationed? Like, you don't really have much of a say, do you, in where you're posted, particularly first posting. So you get put where you're told to go, right?
Well, the old saying used to be out there, Jim, no toque, no tie. So if you don't go north, don't expect to come down and work in the nice southern areas. And so, our members know when they come in the force, they got to put their hands up. They're going to have to do their northern tours. And, Saskatchewan, you have northern tours like I have over here in Manitoba. Not as many as up in G and V divisions, Yukon, but clearly, for example, Green Lake, Onion Lake, Pine House, South End, Stony Rapids, Wilkie, and those detachments right now, for the most part, only have 2 members and 3 members. Now, we want to get those up to manageable resource levels where it's going to be good for officer safety, but more importantly, public safety. But if we can't attract those members, the new members, how are we ever going to do that?
No, you make a good point.